All right, so this is going to be one of our new style of our podcast videos that we're doing. We're going to still keep stuff on Facebook and TikTok, just like we have been, but you're going to be able to hear the audio of this and our longer stories over on Spotify and Apple Music. It's called Matt from Nomads, and we're going to be talking about all kinds of stuff. We like to keep it weird. We like to keep it real, true crime, science fiction, whatever you can have. So this is my father-in-law, Cullen, that's going to be joining us today. So Cullen, what do you want to talk about today?
Just shooting ideas back and forth, and we kind of both agreed a good starting point would probably be, your flat earther, middle earth, all that kind of jazz. It's got everybody up in arms about it. I think it's a good starting point.
I'm gonna do it. Okay, I want to talk about flat Earth. I want it to be very well known, though, that in this thing, I'm not saying Cullen might be saying it, but I'm not saying that Earth is for sure flat. But I think it's a very important conversation to have because so many things in our society today, I feel like we have to take the government's word for it. Okay, NASA is a government-funded entity, and the pictures that they have, we have to just assume are real, and those are the actual photos. And I guess the first thing I'll say about this, because I like this subject, is if we have to, take face value that those videos are real and those pictures are real, the very first picture of the globe was copyrighted by Universal Studios. So when I have a government entity telling me that this picture is real, and then you find the copyright data belongs to Universal Studios, which is known for making fake shit that you see on TV shows and movies, to me it raises red flags. So I don't know what topic you want to start out with, but let's hear it.
Well, if you're talking about globe and this, that, whatever else, all right, you can also go back and look at the the UN logo on that. So the UN logo has everything in the middle, and it looks like wings that come around or leaves that come around and all that kind of stuff. Okay, well, all right, if the Earth is a globe, all right, we've got North Pole, South Pole, and Antarctica's on the bottom, and this and that. All right. Why is this little ring coming around the Earth?
So the UN flag doesn't show Antarctica?
No.
But it shows all the other continents?
It shows all the other continents.
So I love that. I've looked at it before, and we'll put a little picture out here of the UN flag for people who aren't familiar with it. It's on their flag. It's not just their logo. It is their flag. The ice wall theory is my favorite theory, and I think this is where people get lost when I say I think Earth might be flat. I'm not saying that it might be flat per se, but to me, I like the snow globe idea. That the base that we can walk and traverse is flat. The ocean, all that stuff's flat. And then we have some kind of atmospheric dome around us, like a snow globe. So I guess from space, it would probably give the illusion of it being round, kind of like when you look at a snow globe from above, it kind of distorts the imaging underneath. But the ice wall thing is probably my favorite subject about the flat Earth thing that keeps all the water contained. And I don't want to get like too biblical and religious, but for half the people that I've spoken to about this, I'll ask them, like, hey, do you believe in God, or are you religious and all this stuff? And they'll say, yeah. And then I have to say, okay, do you believe the Earth is flat? And they'll laugh at you. And then in the Bible, it says the Earth is flat. Like, it does. So,
it's mentioned in like 2 or 3 different other places. One would be Genesis 1:7. And it talks about, the firmament and, the earth and set up on pillars and everything else like that.
Yeah, which would be the snow globe idea.
Exactly. So, not saying that, we may live in a sphere, but as far as the land and the earth and the oceans and everything else, that's flat. It doesn't curve.
Yeah.
It doesn't curve. I mean, there's multiple theories and experiments and everything else that talk about it being flat. Okay, so one of them would be, all right, so the Earth is 26,000 miles around in circumference, and then you've got your trigonometry math, which math doesn't lie, numbers don't lie, and everything else. So each square mile, and I could be completely wrong about this, but it goes something like, okay, for every square mile, you're supposed to have about 8 inches of drop off per the curvature of the Earth. Okay, well, that's something you can see. We can see past our vantage point to where our vanishing point is, we can probably see at least 3 to 4 miles, if not more. Okay, so take Lake Tahoe, for example. You can stand on one side of the shore, and the other side of the shore, I'm not sure how far it is, but it's a good little ways. You can completely see the other side of the damn other shore.
Like with a telescope and stuff?
With the telescope,
yeah.
And by eye and everything else. And you can see it. Okay, well, say it's, for example, in, I don't know the exact dimensions on it, but say it's 20 miles across. Okay, 20 miles across, say times 8. What is that, 160? Mm-hmm. Okay, 160 inches.
Yeah, drop, which is what?
On the drop.
Yeah, that's almost 13 feet or so of a drop.
Yeah. So
you wouldn't be able to see anything.
You wouldn't be able to see anything. Okay, and then they also explain, okay, well, you look out on the horizon on sea and whatever else, and a ship, say a tanker and whatever else is traveling along, and then it sinks from the hull all the way to the mast. Okay, well, if you think about your vision and everything else, okay, you've got your peripheral vision, and then everything that comes around to your vantage point. Mm-hmm. Well, past that vantage point, you've got what's called a vanishing point. Mm-hmm. Okay, you can't see past that vanishing point with the naked eye, but you can get on your fancy dancy, cell phone, telescope, whatever else, and whoop, there he is. There he is.
Yeah. And if it had a drop,
it could be 50 miles out.
Yeah.
But I'll bring you right back in. Okay, there he is.
Yeah. Yeah. And so if there was a drop point with a curve, that the telescope theory or whatever, it wouldn't matter.
It wouldn't matter.
My favorite thing that I like to ask, and guys, you can verify this for yourself if you get on like Google Maps or Satellite Earth or whatever. One, Satellite Earth will not let you see over Antarctica, so there's that. Two, is if you want to think about this is a weird way to think about it. So if you look at space or if you look at Earth from space, the Earth should be a ball, right? This is something that they won't ever do. They say that they do corrective lenses or whatever. So if you're on the United States, you're kind of on the side here, right? Mm-hmm. So if they zoomed in straight from Earth, or straight from space, if they zoomed in on Earth straight from outer space, it should appear from a straight zoom on that everybody is standing sideways, right? We talked about physics and stuff earlier.
You would think.
You would think so, right? But that's never the case. They always do a drop down straight over the head satellite view. So if you zoomed in on Earth from outer space, on the South Pole, which is where penguins are, it should look like they're standing upside down. But they've all, like, anytime NASA's ever been asked to provide this zoom in, this real time zoom in, to show that image, they won't. They refuse. They absolutely won't do it, and they've never given an explanation on why. That would end the topic essentially right now. If they would just say, "Here's a live time satellite view. Let's show you what we see when we zoom in." Because no matter what way you cut it, if this is a ball and something is right here from outer space, it should look upside down. I understand the way gravity works; you wouldn't fall, obviously. That's not the way gravity works. Everybody's perception would be fixed upon walking around this thing. But from the outside looking in, it should look like that. But that image has never been and will never be provided.
And of course, you got to think about water.
Yeah, exactly.
And everything else. Where's water going to run? It's always going to run down.
Yeah. Which is another thing. They always say the gravitational pull of the Earth sucks the water right back in to the center, and that's fine. That's okay. But once again, we talked about science and the way that numbers can't be lied to. If you guys didn't know, a few years ago, I don't know if you heard this, they said that the core of the Earth, this is not me saying this is an actual scientific journal saying that the core of the Earth actually stopped for a second and then rotated the opposite direction. Have you seen that?
I haven't seen that.
So that was published in 2022, I believe, maybe 2023, where they believe that the core of the Earth is now spinning in the opposite direction than it was before. Okay. Well, they also tell us if the Earth's slowed down or stopped spinning, because we're spinning at like 30,000 miles an hour or something crazy.
I think 6,600 miles per
hour. Okay, yeah. So if they said if the Earth stopped spinning or slowed down even for a second, we would all die essentially immediately, because we would just slam into the nearest object next to us and just crush us. So if the Earth was able to stop spinning, or not the Earth, I'm sorry, the core was able to stop spinning just for a second and go the opposite direction, how did that have zero effect on the outer shell? Like that to me, that sounds impossible.
Nah, I call bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the two is lying. Either they did not swap directions, or we're not spinning at such a rate.
Right. And then you take your tennis ball, you dump it in the water, and you turn it up and you spin it.
The water should go out to the side.
It goes out to the side.
But yet we don't lose water that way.
No, that's not how it happens, guys.
So I've heard a lot of people say, and I just want to hear your thoughts on this, that the sun and the moon are the same thing. And the reason why they say this is because of the hollow earth theory of beyond the ice wall, that the earth is like a donut, and really the earth is almost kind of like an oval. There's a hole right through the center. And the reason why the sun and the moon are opposites of each other is that you're actually seeing the sunlight reflect through that hole and out the other side. And that you would still be able to see both of them at the same time. Like when people talk about, I can see the moon in the morning and the sun. Yeah, go ahead and take a flashlight in the mirror. You can see both of those lights also at the same time.
Right. And when you're getting into that, you think of, okay, a lot of people don't realize this shit, but you think about, okay, the hollow earth and everything else, and say it's more kind of like a funnel.
Yeah, like a cone. Yeah.
Like a cone. All right. So it also says in the Bible, as above, so below.
Yeah, which would.
Right.
Yeah.
So, there would be your sphere, right? Your firmament all the way around it. But you've got this plane right here.
Yep.
And say, we're stacked up here, and just like Stranger Things, you got the upside down.
You got the yep. And that goes into what Admiral Byrd, he really describes on his expedition. Guys, if you don't know who Admiral Byrd is, look up his expeditions. You're talking about one of the lead military figures in the world. Was sent down to Antarctica, and I think the 1940s. Was it right after World War II, or was it right before?
It was right before, and then
okay.
And then they also, afterwards and during, they sent a ton of troops down to Antarctica.
So, guys, Admiral Byrd went down to Antarctica to do an expedition for the United States government, and essentially was deemed crazy afterwards. You're talking about a world military leader, somebody who is obviously very intelligent, the top of his game, in charge of millions of dollars and thousands of people. After his visit to Antarctica, he was deemed crazy, and I'll let Cullen touch on some of the stuff he kind of talked about, but he talked about how when he got over the ice wall of Antarctica, that it was a void infinite of nothingness. He talked about seeing things coming out of the hole, and a lot of people have interpreted that as UFOs. He talked about how when he looked down into this hole, you could definitely not see. It was so pitch dark and void of anything that you couldn't see the other side of it. And there was no estimation on how deep this was. And he actually asked for more research and funding to further do this. And the United States government was like, you're kind of out of the military now and you're insane. And then after that, no one's allowed to go to Antarctica again. We have every country in the world. No one can agree on nukes. No one can agree on, healthcare and civil rights and all this stuff. But we can all agree that our citizens are not allowed to freely go to Antarctica. And to me, that is odd. Like, if that's the one thing we can agree on as a world, to me, that right away, that's a red flag. I'm like, whoa, okay, this place is supposed to be, literally there's rivers coming out of it full of minerals, and the rivers are red because of how much minerals are in them. And, people like minerals. We mostly, there's whole businesses harvesting minerals. Mm-hmm. But we've said none of you are allowed to go there. You can't go. Now, for the people that are about to attack me going, you can go to Antarctica, matter of fact. Yeah, if you buy an expedition ticket and then they mark the one little tiny area, you're allowed to go. You cannot freely go explore Antarctica.
Yeah.
Right after that, people always attack me, they say, well, the government worries about your safety. They don't give a shit about your safety. Do you know how many people die every year climbing Mount Everest? Mm-hmm. And everybody knows there's a good chance you'll die climbing Mount Everest, but no government stops you from doing that shit. But they'll sure as hell stop you from going to Antarctica on your own. They have military boats from multiple nations that literally will get on the megaphone and they will say, we're about to blow your boat up if you don't turn around. You're telling me we're paying for multi-million-dollar warships out there to just patrol all the time for some ice blocks and some penguins? No.
Right.
No.
We got off on a tangent on that. Okay, Middle Earth. Think about that. All right, we discussed the outer territories, the extra territories. Okay, like I was saying below, as above, so below. And your North Pole would be actually the center of everything. Okay, then you go down below. Then you start getting into your subterranean cultures and everything else. Well, you bring up a big one called Agartha.
Okay, I'm liking this already.
Okay, so Agartha has its own ecosystem, has its own sun, black hole sun.
Okay, I'm liking this already.
Okay, so
Yeah, because if the sun was shining through a hollow Earth, they would have sunlight.
exactly.
Yep. Okay.
And-
Which is why I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of people say that there can't be like a jungle or a journey to the center of the Earth. They couldn't have all that stuff on the inside. But if we are living in what's called a hollow Earth, then they would have pretty much almost as much sunlight as we have here, essentially.
Sure. And if you, like I say, if you put it into perspective of the black hole sun, is down below as well. There you go.
Yeah, they would have almost sun all the time.
And so Agartha, they have several cities and everything else. I mean, one of them in ancient text is actually called Sheol. That's supposed to be the underworld, which would be considered hell, But besides that, through everything else, and this is what Charles Bird talked about when he went in, right?
Okay.
He was actually, I think he was personally talking about Agartha, to where he went over there where the population and the civilization was so much more advanced, and they were living purely on, harmony, everything else. And when he went there, he was talking about how hospitable and nice and everything else were, and they explained a lot of shit to him and this and that. So I think it's out and inside and underneath us. Like, say it's just a big,
almost like a donut.
almost like a donut, and everything else, and it is protected all the way around. And that's where what I would perceive as your sphere, it's not just up here,
It's below too.
it's also down here,
Yep.
So yeah, he talks about that. And then if you ever get in old Buzz Aldrin's videos and stuff like that,
That's what I wanted to talk about next. Yep.
he went down there.
Yeah. So, guys, if you didn't know this, Buzz Aldrin was Neil Armstrong. They landed on the moon, or supposedly. Both of them would always tell people when they got asked, like this is 10, 20 years after the moon landing. They said, if people in the street approached them and they said, hey, whatever, they'd say, we can talk about anything, but I won't talk about the going to the moon. And a lot of people said they were ordered not to. A lot of people said the reason why they didn't want to talk about it is because they were afraid at one point they would get tripped up. And was it Buzz Aldrin or Neil Armstrong that even in one interview got cut short because he laughed and said we never went to the moon? And I can't remember if it was Buzz or Neil, but one of them said it in an interview, literally like on a TV interview, and they cut it off right then and there because I think he was just over it, and he just kind of like, this was years and years later, and he just kind of laughed and said we never went to the moon. And there's a lot of footage out there where you can look up where he says that, but it's just one of those things where they say it right in front of us, and then when they say it right in front of us, people go, oh, it's a metaphor, oh, it's a this or that, and they'll just discredit it. Well, why not discredit the other side of it too, of saying that he did go? It's just
Exactly. And so when Buzz went down there and checked stuff out, he got, from what I understand and what I read, he got scared within an inch of his life. He said when they went down there and tried to explore and get into some business they weren't supposed to be getting into, say the outer defense, outside of the wall, basically sent up one of their planes or whatever else.
Yeah, and I've heard about that. And they had a confrontation in a tunnel, I believe.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
And they said you couldn't imagine the agility and the speed of this craft and whatever else. I said he could turn on a dime, this, that, whatever else. Buzz is, Mr. Pilot, astronaut, seen all kinds of aeronautical marvels and this and that. And he said, we ain't never seen nothing like this.
Yep.
And he said, I'll never go back. He said, it scared the living shit out of him.
Yep. Which brings us back to a point of talking about tunnels and different ways that people could be coming from the outer ring to the inner ring if they're more advanced from us. They always talk about the Bermuda Triangle being this point that crafts disappear all the time. it very well could be that that is the a tunnel that they're using to come in and out of, where they talk about UFOs coming out of the ocean. And if they come up out of the ocean, and then all of a sudden there's somebody there that shouldn't be there, are they just getting kind of erased essentially because they don't want these secrets being out? And
Exactly.
because there's some big UFO hotspots in the world over the ocean. Like everybody talks about New Mexico and Nevada and all this stuff. But if you really want to get into the craziest UFO accounts that have the most credible UFO footage and all that stuff, they almost all happen either on the coast or in the middle of freaking nowhere in the ocean.
Yeah. Like I say, I mean, yeah, you've got portals, this, that, and whatever else. And I forgot to mention earlier about, your inner earth and everything else like that. Okay. So you get into ancient times and, how they talk about society being reset.
Oh, yeah.
Every so often.
Yep.
This, that, and whatever else. Let's take the pyramids, for example. Okay. What did they just discover at the pyramids?
I don't know.
Okay, under the Great Pyramid of Giza and all the other ones over there, they have pillars.
Okay, I did see that. Yes.
That lead all the way down and everything else, and then they're wrapped in coil and this and whatever else.
Yep.
Well, it's just so hard to believe that these things go, say, down, for example, and I don't know the exact number or whatever, say 160 meters or whatever else, or miles. Think about that. Well, shit, we drill in my industry. We drill straight down, 12 to 15,000 foot. Okay, well, that's 2 to 3 miles right there. All right, so we've all talked about ancient technology and everything else, how they were so much more advanced than what we are before we got, reset and everything else. It's so hard to believe that they actually tunneled down and built these pillars and is actually almost connecting.
It's almost like an elevator.
Well, that too, but also, it's connecting the upside down with the top side and transferring energy. So,
So I'm glad you said that. Nikola Tesla's, have you ever seen Nikola Tesla's model for free energy?
There we go.
Okay, so Nikola Tesla's free model for free energy is a freaking pyramid. Like his design for it is a literal pyramid. And when they were like saying, what would be the special qualities of this? He's like, really nothing. Because the way it was essentially built, it was built to harvest the electromagnetic field that the Earth naturally gives off, and then spread it out. And what's nuts about this is that we didn't act on it because he could prove it worked. Like there was, he could prove it worked, and it got classified as a danger to homeland security.
Exactly. I mean, he did all his experiments in Denver.
Yeah.
And all that with all his.
Oh, and by the way, guys, if you did not know that a danger to homeland security is a real thing that they do on like inventions that would disrupt our economy, it is real. There is so many inventions that come out, and that's a whole other video. We'll go back to the gatekeeping technology stuff on that. There's so much inventions that come out that, for example, if somebody could make a water car tomorrow, do you think the oil companies would like that? Do you think that our U.S. economy could afford for oil to just go out the window overnight? No, we couldn't afford that. It would cause a literal collapse.
Oh, it's already been invented.
Exactly. And then then what happens is Homeland Security comes in and says, see this patent? No, it's gone. And they will keep it gone until they can make a sustainable shift. There's tons of examples of this, of making these sustainable shifts. What it is they got to figure out how they can make money on it to shift the market before they can allow it to be a real thing that we have in today's society. It doesn't matter if it's actually harmful to you. It matters if it's harmful for the structure.
That's exactly right, and that's why Tesla left. Wasn't Edison? Who was it? Edison?
Was it? I think it was Edison. Yeah. Edison stole his shit. Yeah.
And it was the same deal. Well, Edison was in the pocket of J.P. Morgan.
Oh yeah.
So J.P. Morgan, after that, wouldn't fund or do anything else. That's why Tesla died with no money, nothing.
Money. Yep, and being deemed insane. Yep.
Being insane, exactly, because he unlocked what was already, they say he was a great inventor. He was. Great inventor.
He was so far ahead of his time that it just was unbelievable.
He unlocked what was already there.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
And so just like with the communication and energy and everything else, well, They can't capitalize off that. They can't make any money off of that.
Yeah.
So
And circling back to that, and this is a whole other video again. We talked about 3 or 4 potential branch off videos, but you said he just discovered it was already there. Edison, he didn't do shit. Just so we're all on the same page. Like we were talking about the confiscations of patents. Mm-hmm. That's what the man did.
That's exactly what he did.
So when and look this up for yourselves. When electricity first came around, the oil company, like literally when they were harvesting wells, they flipped out, by the way. If you guys want to go down that rabbit hole, they did not want electricity to become a thing because then they're like, no one's going to need candles anymore. And they literally, like, electricity was postponed coming out by decades because of the oil industry.
Well, when it first came out, it was all DC. It was direct current.
Yeah.
And Edison said, your shit sucks, bro. Mm-hmm. I said, watch this. Converted it to AC using electromagnetism and everything else. Look, I can travel infinite spaces where yours can only go so far.
Yep.
And this and that, and pissed Edison off.
Yep.
And then on top of that, Tesla also invented the radio to where, Marconi ended up stealing his idea on that shit too.
Yeah.
So, the dude was, well above his time, but he was basically discovering, everything else that was already there. He just kind of rediscovered it.
Yep. Which is, we're going down.
Yeah, we're going down a different way. So, we were talking about the Middle Earth and and how you were saying the moon is more or less a reflection of the sun. But one other rabbit hole a lot of people don't look through, and it incorporates flat Earth, Middle Earth, this, that, and whatever else, is called the black hole sun.
Okay.
All right. Soundgarden wrote a song about black hole sun.
Okay.
Yep. And if you look back, say Hitler times and this, that, whatever else, you think about symbols and sigils and everything else. So the symbol and the sigil for the black hole sun looks a hell of a lot like a swastika.
Ooh, okay.
Okay. So
what is it supposed to be? Like, what is that?
So what it would be is, so in a flat earth theory, the North Pole would actually be the center. Okay. And that would be your hole down the middle Earth.
Okay.
Right? Antarctica is the South Pole, but it's
around the whole thing.
Around the whole thing. Okay, so as above, so below. Okay, say you only got one sun up here, and it's a reflection of the moon, this, that, and whatever else. Well, you've got your black hole sun down here, right? It's shining through the hole and actually reflecting itself onto the dome or whatever else.
And that's what we see as the moon?
Okay, and that's what you practically see as a moon.
Okay.
And why it changes, say you got crescent moon, half moon, quarter moon, this, that, whatever else. Okay, so the sun, say on the top side, our side, isn't just on one track, and just stays on this one track. It's actually kind of a little spiral where you get your seasons. Every year it'll kind of spiral in closer and closer and closer. Okay, that'd be summertime, right? Because we're getting the most sun. And then it hits it after 3 months, and then it starts coming out.
Okay.
And then keeps rotating out. Well, the further it gets out towards the rim, you got your winter months and everything else. But say your continents are, lined up, ever such way. So say our winter would be summer to somebody else, and summer to them would be, our winter, right? It's just because of the concentration of the sun, how it hits on the top side. Go on.
It's the grossest noise.
You and licking. So, as above, so below. So that black hole sun is doing the same thing. It's carrying on a different track or a spiral and this and that. So when it's reflecting up through this hole, and reflecting back. That's why you're getting the different angles of the moon. Okay, right now we're in a full moon, so it's shining direct and making a good reflection right there. And then when it spirals a little bit outside of itself or doing whatever it's doing,
It only goes partially through
then
the
it
hole.
goes partially through the hole and this and that. And that's how they explain the black hole sun, which goes back into the inner earth and, top and bottom, as above, so below.
All right, I like that. And then you've said a couple things. So a minute ago you said Middle Earth, which this is my favorite topic about the flat Earth theory because I love anything pop culture related.
Yeah.
Is like, I really believe that they try to tell us the truth in pop culture because they'll get called crazy essentially if they just say it outright. Like this is the truth because you just get called insane. So I think they figure out ways to like slip it into us in our everyday life in ways that we can understand. And that's why my favorite thing is when you talk about Middle Earth with the Lord of the Rings series.
Right.
So if y'all have never heard of this, a lot of people believe that the ice wall, or what we're referring to, Antarctica and the ice wall here, is that's just a barrier. And on the other side of that is other continents, other cities, other civilizations, and sometimes when we see UFOs, are we really seeing just people from that other side of the ice wall? Because we don't know how, if there are people on the other side of the ice wall, we don't know if we're ahead of them technology-wise, or if they're ahead of us technology-wise, or if they're on kind of the same level, or if they're using whole different technologies because they might have minerals that we don't have and technologies we don't have and vice versa. We might have stuff they don't have. And that's why they're over here kind of studying, saying like, hey, what do they got going on? And UFOs might be just us because a lot of people talk about UFOs coming out of the water and out of the ocean, especially around Antarctica. Those could be underwater tunnels. That could just be their method of going back and forth. We have no idea because we know there's tons of vents and stuff in the ocean that we can never even fathom where they go. Supposedly we know more about space than we do our own ocean. But getting back to this is, if you look at old sea maps, 1500 era and previous, it shows the ice wall on their maps. So you talk about you have Spanish sailors, Indonesian sailors, European sailors, and so they all speak different languages, but yet they drew the same map. And we're talking about hundreds of years apart. They all drew a map with this big barrier around the whole Earth, and at the bottom of the barrier, where we would know current day Antarctica, they have passageways, which are like canal lanes.
Yep.
What the hell is that? And why did they all have them on their maps? Because if you're a sailor back then, that's the only way of transportation. That's very important that your maps are 100% accurate.
And supposedly, those passageways to the outside of the wall and everything else are all guarded.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Not only by us,
but by their side.
By their side as well.
Yep, and I love that. The next thing I'm going to reference. So if you guys, this is the best pop culture reference I think you can have to an ice wall type theory or a we're not alone on our own Earth theory is Attack on Titan. It's an anime. I know you haven't watched it, Cullen, but it's an anime about these people. It's very popular about these people that there are supernatural creatures on their island that kill them if they leave their wall, right? So they have a big giant wall that surrounds their city, and kind of like what we're talking about the ice wall here, and if they leave that wall, these giant creatures will kill them. They know they exist, they see them all the time, people get killed by these things all the time in the anime. But finally, a group of them make it past the creatures, and they think that they're going to be free, and they're going to find a new land, and then they just see the ocean, and they're like, shit. So then they get a boat, they go across the ocean, and they find that the rest of the world is living in perfect harmony like we are right. We're not living in perfect harmony, obviously, but you know what I'm saying. There's not giant monsters killing the shit out of us every time we walk across this wall. And they realize, they're like, hey, what's going on here? And people are like, oh, you guys are prisoners. You got to go back to your island. Yeah. So what if we're the prisoners? And, once again, reference in the Bible, we got kicked out of the Garden of Eden. Mm-hmm. So where did we get kicked out to when we got kicked out of the Garden of Eden? Absolutely. Is that here? And the other side of the ice wall is the garden? Right. Exactly. And, so there's so many references to this, but I love that Attack on Titan one the most because I think it fits the narrative so good of, we might be prisoners. If you guys don't know how Australia, the country, was founded, it was a prison island. Yeah. We would send prisoners there because we knew they couldn't get off of it. And that could be just us on this side of the ice wall. And that's why there would be guarded places where we can't leave. We are technically a prisoner.
And also on top of that, you've also got, what can I say, on more of your sci-fi stuff. You've got gates, more or less like stargates or you know what I'm talking about, where you can zap over to here, beam me up, Scotty, and we'll shoot you over there. Okay, so when people are talking about, okay, well, it's extraterrestrials, it's aliens, da 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 da, this, that, and whatever else. Well, it could be us, but you think about, you break it down, all right, terrestrial, what's terrestrial? The root word of that is territory. Okay, we're not thinking up. Okay, everybody thinks, oh, spaceman, da 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 da, this, that, whatever else. Okay, well, back to our conversation, as as far as the east from the west and everything else. Okay, extra territory. Let's change our perspective and go out instead of up. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we got our ice wall here. All right, that's our little prison. Outside of here, it's set up like how they talk about Atlantis, right? Where they had silver rings all around it. It's kind of set up like that, from what I understand.
So I want to touch on what you just said. So the old description of Atlantis talks about there being rings around it.
Right.
Exactly like what we just talked about.
Exactly.
And they said that Atlantis was cut off to us by water. They're saying that it got flooded or whatever. What if it wasn't flooded? What if they just they closed off that canal we were talking about? They put the ice wall up and they closed it off to us.
Yeah.
And it talks about them being more advanced than us, which would go right back to what I said a minute ago.
And if you look at the old maps and everything else, people that have drawn or whatever else and perspected and this and that, okay, you're talking about your pop culture stuff right there. Okay, all right, we got Atlantis. That's outside of the wall, maybe in their own little.
Because I'm not saying that this is the only ice wall and the only ring. In fact, there was one old sea map that had three that were layered in around,
Yep. Okay, and then you even get back into Sumerian shit and this and that, and which you're pretty well versed in, and I'm versed in as far as the Anunnaki. Well, the Anunnaki got their own place.
Oh yeah.
And then as far as anything else, supposedly saying, as far as pop culture is concerned, okay, you think about the good guys and what we call the cabal in our world. You got your light side and dark side. Well, there's another little place called where the Guardians are supposed to live.
Yep.
And this and that. So they're all over us and whatever else. Okay, well, there's your ETs.
So I'm gonna make another reference real quick, and I know you love me talking about anime, but another great pop culture reference is The Promised Neverland. If y'all haven't watched Promised Neverland, you don't have to. I'm about to tell you the whole surmise of it. In their world, in that show, and this goes back to the Epstein files and all this creepy stuff you see about our kids being taken now. In The Promised Neverland, the world is divided by two. On one side of the world, they think that that's the whole world, the humans. They just think that that is their whole world, and essentially they're dealing with the ice wall like we're talking about right now. On the other side of this ice wall is essentially demons, like if you watch the show. And the demons, they've signed a treaty with the humans thousands of years ago that every once in a while they can cross the ice wall, the barrier, and they can take a few humans kidnapped and bring them back and raise them like livestock, like we raise cattle, because that's what they eat. And the deal to stop the war, which, the Bible references the war many, many times, to essentially have that peace treaty and to stop the war, they were like, hey, let us take some humans back and make a human farm so we don't have to keep trying to eat you guys and steal you guys. So our government essentially thousands of years ago was like, yeah, we're cool with that. And that's essentially what happened. That's what the whole anime is about. But where it talks about, once again, like we said, an ice wall with a whole civilization on the other side of it. And it was essentially to protect us. That's it with me doing my anime references. That's all.
And like we talked about earlier, that goes hand in hand with that movie, Jupiter Ascending. On that, basically it comes down to, okay, well, we've got these aliens more or less harvesting us, saying that our little piece of existence is their human farm.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Which would go, you hear about people getting abducted by aliens. What if that's just like how when you go outside to pick what chicken you're going to slaughter at the farm?
And then on top of that, you think of Bill Gates and all that other bullshit going into, it's like, okay, well, we need to depopularize the planet. Okay. Well, you sick, sadistic motherfucker. Okay. All right, we've got our stock up to 7 billion people on the earth today in our little bill. Okay, well, it's harvest time. Let's go over here and round up a few, and we'll have a feast.
Yeah.
And we get to start all over.
Which I'm glad you said that. You said let's go round up a few and have the, you know. So if y'all didn't know this, right before 2020 happened, there was a ton of people that got called crazy because they started doing like massive prepping and bug out kits, and they were like hiding in bunkers. And when they were asked why they were doing that, go ahead and look these videos up. You can watch tons of interviews. Every century on the 20th year, for all of recorded history that we know of, there has been a massive plague or cataclysmic event. Literally going back for as long as we've recorded history. You know, 2020 we had COVID. You know, 1920, guess what? The Spanish flu. The Spanish flu killed more people than World War I and II combined. Mm-hmm. So, and then if you can go back further and further, there's tons and tons, countless examples of the 20th year of every century has massive cullings every time without fail.
And what's funny about that, they also, in pop culture and everything else, they reference that shit. They tell us when it's coming.
Oh, yeah.
So one example would see, you know, with our most recent, you know, cataclysm and whatever else with COVID. Okay, I read a series of books by Dean Koontz. It's called it's the Jane Hawk novels. Okay, this was written like in 1617 before we even knew anything about this. And this dude, basically, out of a fictional story, predicts this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, exactly. I mean, with the you know, the shot and everything else. I mean, and it ties into Manchurian candidate type of deal with changing their behaviors and this, that, and whatever else to where, you know, the virus breaks the blood-brain barrier. And I mean, it's all laid out in this book. 3-4 years before it even hit.
Oh yeah, yep.
You know, so I mean, yeah, we've got other stuff outside of us.
Oh yeah. Okay, so I do want to talk about this because you're talking about all these different rings and all this stuff. People say, well, wouldn't they have seen it when they went to the moon, right? Well, first of all, before we even get into that hoax, because just so we're all clear, I don't think we ever went to the moon. And you can call me crazy all you want to.
We got a spaceship going up there that launched yesterday that was supposed to see it.
I think that's all bullshit. I think that's all for show. That's all for, you know, for looks. And I'm not saying that they're not going to outer space, but kind of like what Colin said earlier, we don't know where that realm of that kind of snow globe type deal we're talking about is. And there's the famous Elon Musk rocket that bounces off something. If you guys haven't seen that video, that was wild.
They show that shit all the time where it bounces off the firmament and what they think about it. Okay, well, all right. So you're telling me, all right, we have an SR-71 plane, fastest plane in the world, and they made a new one that's even faster. Okay, at 2,500 miles per hour, and above that, the hull and everything else starts to explode.
Yeah.
And starts to tear apart. All right, you're telling me this rocket's going 18,000 fucking miles an hour.
in 19, you know, we're talking about decades and decades ago. And NASA's official explanation of why we haven't walked on the moon again since then was that we lost the technology. That's their official answer, by the way.
Yeah.
And also, the original NASA tapes are lost. So they lost the technology, lost the original tapes. The reason why they lost all that stuff is because it was all bullshit. It was never real. And they also know with the advancement of our technology today that anybody that had access to those original tapes could just show that it's fake. Like
and what we're shown as far as technology wise, they're miles ahead.
Oh God, not even comparable.
Ahead of what we're given.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like these phones that we're on.
Yeah.
I mean, that's old school shit. That's like Atari shit.
Oh yeah. That's. And that's a whole other video about gatekeeping technology, because that's a big rabbit hole. Like, you know, I'll go ahead and say it. No, I'm not. I'll get canceled. I think we used AI to fake a lot of news footage that we saw back in the early 2000s. And I won't say the event because y'all will come after me, but there was a major event that caused the war in the Middle East that I think was fucking AI, and it wasn't fucking real.
Yeah.
And I think that AI is just something that we have got now. So we're like, oh shit, this is new shit. No, it ain't. Well, if they let us have it, they done had it for 30 years.
Well, you get into Project Bluebeam. On
Oh
it.
yeah, yep,
Okay.
yep.
But anyway, so okay. If we're talking about the firmament and bouncing shit off this and that, whatever else, okay. All right, how big is that? How far does it go up? We don't know. Okay, if it goes up that damn far,
The moon might be within it, you know.
it might be within it. Okay, well, when you're getting up
If the
that,
moon's real.
exactly, if the moon's real. Okay, well, we also know that there's thousands, if not 100,000s of satellites
Yeah.
in the atmosphere. But say it's
Don't get me started on fucking satellites.
uh,
I don't think they're real either.
so that I think they're, and if they are up there or whatever else, they are orbiting inside the firmament.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole satellite thing, guys, and the reason why I said I don't think those are real either. I think satellites are up there? Absolutely. Do I think they do what these tell us? No. I think they're a pure surveillance tool because everybody that goes, well, my cell phone uses satellite signal. No, the hell it doesn't. If that tower down the road from your house gets hit by a car, you lost your cell phone service because it's all cell phones are ground-based service signal. It's unless you buy a satellite phone, you know. But like everybody talks about AT&T and all this stuff, and they got the most satellites or whatever. If that's true, why did I lose cell phone service on the way over here?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
like, what the hell? You know, because the sky didn't go away. I wasn't under a tunnel. What happened is there was a hill between us and the tower. You know? Like,
You know, unless, just like you said, unless you're using Wi-Fi on all that. Say, like my work truck out there, I've got, portable Wi-Fi with it. As long as I've got a clear view to the sky, my phone works.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as that shuts off, I go out to West Texas for work or South Texas or whatever else. AT&T sucks ass out there,
why?
and you can't get nothing.
Yeah. So,
Go back to the moon landing on that shit.
yeah, if I lose cell phone service on the drive over here, you're telling me they could live stream the footage of thousands and thousands and thousands of miles away? They could live stream with perfect quality the moon landing? Hell no. Hell no. I'll go 20 feet from my house and sometimes will lose, service. Or if I'm on FaceTime, I'll lose service. Hell no, they weren't live streaming shit.
And then you got El Presidente on a landline phone talking to the boys on the moon. Hey,
Yeah.
how's it going? Yeah, bullshit.
Well, guys, I think we're gonna wrap it up for today. If you like this, follow it. This is a brand new thing we're doing. If you want to see all of our shorter clips and you're hearing this on the podcast, go see us on Facebook. It's called Nomads Animal Encounter. Go see us on TikTok. Same thing, Nomads Animal Encounter. And then if you're here, you're at Matt from Nomads, and I hope you enjoyed this and you tune in again. Thank you.